I got a vinyl record player here at the office now, because all of our music used to be tied to my phone, and my phone never stops ringing, and it always interrupts the music. So now we have vinyl records at the office too. So it's been nice.
So everybody
All
joining
right.
in, we're talking about
Chris.
vinyl records today. That
We're going to start
so
talking
this
about
is going to be a
committee.
really informative webinar. I hope you're going to enjoy this. And normally, we talk about fundraising and stuff with events, and we're gonna get kicked off here in just a minute. But there's a lot of people that are joining, and we just want to let everybody get in before we get started. So we appreciate you guys being here.
Good. Yeah, thanks, Robert, for coming back. Everyone's coming in. That's awesome. Hey, Gloria. Hello. Hey, Patty. Hey, Kathy, Karina, Chris, Mary Jean, friend of HGA. I love it. All right. It's also the first day of baseball season, so I think that's pretty awesome. Feels good. That feels really good.
Yeah. So welcome. This is going to be a really good deal today. We've got Amy Myers here, and so we're really excited to have her. And this is really kind of a continuation of last week. We had about how to build a committee, because we know that a lot of people are. And now this is going to be talking about, with your committee, how to go make that big ask, how to get that, how to go get those sponsors and things like that. And we're so glad to have Amy here. Amy Myers, the National Director for worldwide events and everything under the sun for Muscular Dystrophy Association USA. And so we're really thrilled to have her. Hey, Amy, how's it going?
It's good.
Amy, I can't hear you.
Guys.
Amy, I can't hear you. Amy, are you on mute?
I am not.
No, I can't hear you at all. I can't hear you either, Trevor. What's going on? Weird. Yeah, you guys need to check your microphones, because I can't hear you.
Okay.
And I can hear Trevor.
No, I can't hear either one of you. April Fools. Jackie got it. Okay, I got you guys out of the way. I've been planning that all day.
That's his second joke of the morning, because it's Amy Myers, National Senior Director of Fundraising and Community Engagement with Muscular Dystrophy Association. That's awesome. Okay, April Fools, you got us. That's great, man. Right. Well, let me take it from here.
Yes.
I had my partner, 3 decades in the fundraising space, and someone that we could not do what we do without. Mr. Jason Ledlow is here as well. We're going to be, of course, keeping tight on our usual 1 hour limit of timeline. But of course, we've got a great chat feature. Let us know where you're from. Let us know the name of your organization. Of course, there's so many folks that we've seen over the last few weeks, and we're so thankful for you all to come back. We are going to be doing another drawing, of course, for an auction item that can be used at your next event, per usual. And then, of course, we'll be sending out the webinar recording post events with any marketing or slides or any helpful files that we provide throughout the webinar here. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you like. We're going to get into how to make a powerful ask with your committee, and I will allow Jason and Amy to take it from here, and I'll be monitoring the chat and Q&A features. So thank you so much. Thank you both.
Well, it's just always glad to be here. Amy, it's always fun to be here with you, because you just got so much information. So I thought what we could do is just really fast do a recap of what we talked about last week about, just building a committee and how we talked about that.
Yeah. A quick recap. Really, it all comes down to, in a perfect gala world, if we all have a great committee, they will lead your event. They will bring in a majority of your income. They will be the connection to all things gala. And so really taking the time to do your research and find the right people to serve on your committee, both people that are drawn to your mission and have a connection in some way, as well as people that really have that network where they have the ability to reach out, ask for the big checks, and support your event. So that's really high level.
That's really high level. And if anybody wasn't here last week and you want to see a recording of that, just let us know, towards the end, and we'll send that to you, because it was a lot of information, a lot of good stuff that Amy shared, really a step-by-step how-to do that. And so, and as we start talking about the making a powerful ask, one of the things, and I really want to talk about, and this has come up like every day. You know, I'm fortunate. I get to talk to folks like yourselves all over the country, directors, executive directors, all over the country. And one of the things that, you know, comes back to is mission drive, and how important mission drive and the impact of what this donation is going to be. And to keep that in the front versus start talking about, well, you know, you get a table with 10 people and this is what, and you get this advertising and things like that, which is all important. But the number one thing is the mission drive, you know, is my deal. What do you say? What do you say to that, Amy Myers?
Yeah, I mean, your mission drive is one, your opportunity to get your organization's mission in front of everybody, and two, it is the number one best way to raise money without giving anything in return. You're not giving them benefits. You're not giving them an auction item. You're not giving them anything in return other than a feel good because they are doing their due diligence and helping a good organization.
And, you know, on that line, just what Amy said, you don't have to give anybody anything. Literally, you know, these organizations that want to get behind and help the community, that's what they're wanting to do. They're looking to see what it is that you do and how it affects the community, how it affects what, you know, does it tie into what they believe and what they want to drive and what that, and it can be anything. And just as long as you keep that in front and center before everything else, and everything else is work. Yeah, it's a negotiation. If they want a table or they want two, fine. They may want to, you know, somebody says, well, I'm out of town. Doesn't matter. You know, and especially with these big partnerships, like you know, we're talking about for these big asks, that's what it's about. The companies and corporations and people with significant ability to give aren't making those donations based on getting a table. They're not, it's not, it has, you know, that may be a benefit that they get to come, or that's a side piece that they want to come to the party. But that is not what it's about. It's about your mission and the impact that those dollars are going to have and how that's going to convert through your organization to help the community. So,
and I think it's important to remember too, that the mission drive is the one piece of your event that everybody can participate in. Not everybody has the means to buy a big auction, you know, $10,000 auction item. Not everybody, you know, can purchase a big sponsorship, but once they get in that room, everybody can give something to the mission drive. That is your one opportunity to really drive home that 100% participation.
I just want to just let everybody know, hey, there's a Q&A button right down below. And if throughout this point, anything that you guys have a question, please just pop it up there. Tell us, say, hey, we've got a question, you know, or just type your question there. We'll get that to it, because we've got, you know, with Amy's incredible experience and our background and combined stuff, we want to do that. And there may be somebody else that's on here that has, say, I've got some experience here. So please don't hesitate on those questions.
So I'll monitor that as they come in. Just let us know.
Trevor's going to be there to make sure that we get that out there, because we don't want you to, you know, leave here today with a question going, well, I thought about asking. Just ask. So I'm going to pop up Amy's has again put together some phenomenal information, and I'm just going to bring this up and let her just kind of take it away. And I hope everybody can see it. If you can't, please go to the upper right-hand side of your viewer and just click View Gallery, and it will tie it in there so that way you can see it. And you should be ready to go. So Amy, let's rock.
So I think it's important to kind of go back a little bit to the conversation that Jason and I had that kind of led to this webinar. Was he was talking about, you know, making the big ask, and how I go about making the big ask. And I said, you know, I don't, my committee does it. And so that's where we kind of, part one was last week, like building that committee. Because if you have the right committee, they make those big asks for you because they have the warm leads, they have the network. So continuing on to, you know, last week we talked about building that committee, and this week we're going to talk about making that big ask. And here again, it's not going to be about me making the big ask. It's going to be about your committee members making that big ask. However, you can use this information to prepare yourself as well if you are making the big ask. But I think it's important to point out, and I've said this over and over, if you have the right committee members, it's not a hard ask for them. And so these are just kind of some tips to help you prepare your committee member to go in and make that ask and prepare them for the meeting they're going to have. So if you want to pop that back up, Jason.
I will. I just like seeing myself.
Do you? Okay. So, I mean, the first thing you want to do with your committee is really, sometimes I like to say we have to think for them. This isn't, their everyday job. They're volunteering to be part of our committee. So we have to kind of help them along and think for them. And so one of the most important things is to help them build their target list. Who is the list of companies that they have access to where we can make the big asks? And so this is a really neat exercise that I always did with my committee. And we would do it as a group because they would feed off each other and they would kind of give ideas and stuff. But you can also, I've seen people do it, one-on-one if that works better. But you really want to have a list of all your top private owned companies within your area that you serve. Typically your private owned companies are easier to get money from. You don't have to go through all the hoops. And that's a good starting point to get your committee thinking, because when you have this list in front of them, they start saying, oh, I know Joe Smith at XYZ company, and then somebody else. And so that kind of gets the conversation going. And then go into the exercise with them. The first thing you want them to do is list 5 people that they know with chief in their title. And back to that, if you have the right people on the committee, they know chief operating officers, chief financial officers, they know people with those high level titles. So just have them put 5 people. Then you want to have them just list the last 10 people they texted and what company they were with. And obviously this is business related, not necessarily, but it can be personal, because we all, know people in our personal life. There are other organizations and other businesses that we can get involved. And then they really need to think about, who does their company pay money to, in the sense of who's their company's attorney, who does their accounting work, who's their benefits provider, who's their insurance, all of those, and have the list. And by the time you go through these 3 little steps, you really have built their target list for them. You've done the hard work and the thinking for them. And then you really want to make sure that you, with this list, you have next to it the name of the committee member that is responsible for going after the specific company. And also make sure you always put deadlines. So we're going to talk about this in 2 weeks. We're going to come back together and we're going to see what progress we've made. So make sure that you're kind of putting an end to the tracking. And then also you want to keep track on some type of corporate sponsorship tracker to share with the committee, because each committee member will have their own people, but there'll be overlap. And sometimes the best way to approach for a big sponsorship is to go at them, 2 or 3 different committee members that have different connections. So making sure that you're really sharing and having that committee having that open dialogue so that they can share who they know and what avenue they can go to get into it.
Hey, Amy, I want to stop you and just ask a question that we could go on that. And I think we've got a queue coming up, so can you just give some examples of like where people that just really can tie into that, some maybe specific as you can, how that relationship, that vendor relationship works? I think sometimes we get caught up in, well, I don't know if they would do this or do that, but if they've got a relationship with your company, but like for an example, if you've got somebody on your committee that's a manufacturer and they're saying, well, I buy steel from this company from such and such, or buy materials from there, and just how those relationships work, that a lot of times these are some deep pocket folks, and they will really step up to support a manufacturer, because that's kind of how the relationship that they're supporting and
right.
How that works. So if you have
it's their relationship. And it's also, if you're a manufacturing company and you're buying steel from, a steel company, you're supporting their company. You are writing big checks to that company. They don't want to lose your business. And part of keeping that partnership in a good place is supporting. And that is, I think we don't realize how much in partnerships with companies that work together, how much nonprofit comes into play. Most most companies, they have some type of philanthropic beliefs, and they have a certain amount of money set aside for this. They have money to spend with nonprofits. And so it's just making sure that our committee members, from the manufacturing company is making that ask. I mean, I've sat down with the committee member and said, okay, do me a favor. I want you to go to your accounts payable, and I want you to get the list of the top 10 companies that your company writes the biggest check to, your vendors, your top 10, because those people should absolutely be supporting you in this event. It's a win-win. It keeps the partnership strong, and they want to support each other. And like the steel company doesn't want the manufacturer to go to another steel company. And I've seen that happen. I had a committee member that his financial advisor wouldn't support him. He changed financial advisors.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. There's a lot of power that you have, that these folks have. And I say power, I don't mean like, bludgeon somebody off the head on their head. I just mean that it's a relationship. I mean, literally, this is somebody who you talk to, you deal with. They work, and your committee members do.
They go golfing, they go to lunch.
Yeah. And here's the thing, unless you bring this up a lot of times, your committee will never even think about it. And I know that if I probably said, hey, give us a show of hands, how many times that you guys with your committees and boards and things like that, you sit around and they go, yeah, who can we go get for that? And everybody sits there and go, yeah, I just can't think of anybody. Holy cow, pull your phone out. Who are you talking to? I mean, literally, we work with organizations, have them pull their phone out. I said, open your address book and start at A. Who do you know? I mean, and it's funny that you go down there, and you even pointed this out, Amy. Somebody will say, Trevor Nelson. Hey, what about Trevor? And Amy goes, oh, I know Trevor. That'd be great. And so, holy cow, we've got 2 connections to that person, and it really starts building momentum. And that's how you can get because they have all this knowledge and all these contacts and all these connections. They do. But sometimes they don't even know how to reach out and make that connection, how to tie that in. And so if you're there to help facilitate that, it'll bring all that out. And, it really makes it.
Yeah, these are not like cold calls. These shouldn't be like a cold call. This is totally a warm lead where there is a relationship that exists.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to be a scary call. Like you said, it's not a cold call. It's a network call. It's a network call with a mission, right? I mean, we had a question come in from Gloria, who's always so lovely with her questions, from Concordia Prep. So it's a private school. And she said she does most of the big asks year to year. And she's asking, quite frankly, because most of their large donors are alums or parents or parents of alums or what have you. And she's asking, quite frankly, are you suggesting having a committee member take these duties over when it comes to these asks, as opposed to just her doing it every year? I'm pretty sure that's.
I mean, I would absolutely and I know Jason's talked about this before, is getting some alumni and building, a committee or a group that will help fundraise. And maybe it's not take it over. Maybe it's in addition to. They're going to have a different network than she is. And probably if you've been making those asks, you have those relationships. And so you may want to keep those relationships, but I would look at it as a way to build on what, your foundation you already have.
Mm-hmm. Evoke the help of others, possibly. Yeah.
I'm going to, and I'm sorry, I got to bring Trevor's screen back up, but this is something that I've witnessed this personally and seen this. If you have a one-on-one relationship, especially, at some high level of capacity to give and stuff, the conversation is just different. So if me as now he shut his camera off, so I got to take him back off again. I'm teasing Trevor within this deal. It's April Fool's Day, so we're just giving him a hard time. So literally I've seen this. So I got a client that she was wanting to make, we were talking about making an ask of somebody to give a match challenge gift of 25 or 50,000. That's what we were looking for the fund to need, the mission drive. And I said, well, why don't you go ask Mark and have him ask Greg? And I said, then Mark's going to wonder why you're not asking him. And I said, then you can just hit him with it too. And so she did. She literally said, hey, Mark, I'm thinking about asking Greg to see if he'll put up some money to do this. And what do you think about that? And he goes, well, why didn't you ask me? And she goes, well, I think I just did. He picked up the phone and said, Greg, we're in for 50. That was it. There was no, hey, do you want to do this? I have to talk about the deal. It wasn't in, it's just, we're in for 50 because they just 25,000 a piece and they did it. Mm-hmm. And so those conversations are so much different. So the other thing that you could do, Gloria, and I hope this will help, and is if I call Amy, and I know that Amy has a great relationship with Trevor, and I'm trying to do that, it doesn't help if I just sit there and go, hey, Trevor, by the way, we're trying to do all this stuff. And I know you've got capacity to give, and I'm asking you for $50,000 to sponsor this. And, oh, I know Amy too. Heck, have Amy call, because Amy's going to sit there, knows the mission. She understands your organization, what it's about, has the passion, the drive to do that. And she knows Trevor well enough to go, Trevor, I sponsored your deal. You need to sponsor mine. And it works that way. There's a lot of quid pro quo in this stuff. Hey, I bought a table at your event for 20,000. I need you to buy one at mine. And I'll give you another example. And we talked about this a little bit last week about how powerful committee members can ask, especially whenever they have capacity to give themselves, because it's a lot different ask as, if you're working for the organization and you're going and saying, hey, you got to go ask 15 people to give $25,000. But it's a whole lot different if Amy picks up the phone and calls somebody that has that and says, I'm in for 25,000. I want you to get in for 25,000. It is a completely different conversation. And they know whenever that happens, it just changes the dynamics of it. And so that's why we encourage the whole committee piece and to get those things that put together, and to go back, and I'm gonna put the slides back up, but to go back to what Amy was saying about getting people with a chief in their title, because they're the ones that can pull the strings and make stuff happen and go find those vendors. Heck, their company or it may not fit into their giving window, but that committee member goes, but you know what? I got 3 people that I'm going to go call, and they can go make that happen. And I've got one real quick question, because I know this always comes up. And this is what I had somebody ask me this. Well, but they won't ask. They don't want to call and ask anybody. My quick answer is to that, then why are they on the committee? It's kind of like being on the board of a nonprofit. You're there for guidance and governance and to raise money. That's it. And if you can't do the raising money, the guidance still gets taken care of anyway. But if you can't raise money and help the organization that way, then you're kind of, it's kind of not, doesn't make much sense. But anyway, I want to get back to Amy's slides, because it's a lot of good stuff to get through.
We can go to the next one.
There we are.
All right. So just real quick, talking about your sales pipeline. And this is something that you should have as the lead for the event, as well as you should have a sales pipeline for your committee. And basically it's just a sales pipeline is a set of stages that a prospect moves through as they progress from a new lead to a customer. So I'm going to kind of take you through the sales pipeline. And the sales pipeline can serve 2 purposes. One, like I said, it can serve as this is you helping your committee move their people through the pipeline. Or if you are in a situation where you don't have a committee and it's just not conducive to the type of organization that you have, this is kind of the pipeline that you should follow to get to the point where you're making that big ask. You can go to the next one.
Okay.
So these are really the stages of the pipeline. Prospecting, and this prospecting nowadays, I feel like is so much easier than it's been in the past, because you can do LinkedIn, you can do Google, you can do your business journal, but really, doing that prospecting to start building your list, and then qualifying and managing leads. And that really essentially is just what it is. It's qualifying. So you've put this prospecting list together, and then you really want to do your research and, is it a company that has the means to donate? Is it a company that has, lots of vendors that they could also go to be part of it? So just really qualifying those leads. And then once you've qualified and you've really built that list, you're going to do your initial meeting. and we'll talk more about what that meeting looks like a little bit later. And then your proposal that you would put together to them. And this proposal is going to be based on the meeting you have with them or your committee member has with them and the questions that you ask, because you're going to want to build that proposal built on not what we need as an organization, but what is going to benefit us as an organization and benefit them as a business or a corporation. What are they looking for? So you want it to be a win-win. So it's really important to ask the questions and not go in with this, build this proposal based on what we want. It needs to be a partnership. And then obviously finalizing the partnership. So that's your stages of the pipeline. And now we're going to talk about the actual, this is something I've always used with my staff and myself. It's called a 10-4-2-1 pipeline. And here again, this is if you are the person that is going in to make the big ask for your event, or if your committee member is doing it, is once you've built that prospect list, you've taken them through the stages, you've qualified them, you've got your list. Typically we find that out of statistics show that out of 10 prospects on your list, that will yield 4 meetings. So you do these 4 meetings, you ask the questions, that will lead to 2 proposals. And from those 2 proposals, typically you will end up with 1 sponsorship. We all know that when you have a prospect list, of 10 people, not all 10 people or companies are going to donate. You can use this pipeline when you're getting new committee members. You put together 10 prospects for new committee members, you work through your pipeline, and that out of those 10, you typically will yield at least 1 new committee member. So it's the same thing with your sponsorships. And a lot of times I hear people say, well, I just haven't had any luck. I have my target list and, I keep being told no. Well, we all know that we're going to get no's. That's the business of it. You always, when you have a no, you always want to say, is there somebody else that you can think of that you can, maybe connect us to, ask questions? But the number one thing I hear is when I say, well, let me see your target list. They have 2 people on their target list or 3 people. If your target list is not big enough, you're not going to be successful. So it's really, really important to build that. So if you're looking to get, you yourself 5 sponsorships, you're going to need, 40, 50 prospects. Especially you as an individual that's not utilized. Now your committee members, because they're warmer leads, their pipeline is going to look a little different. But just keep in mind that, making sure that you qualify and you build that good prospect list will result in more success moving forward.
And I want to just add, one of the things you're going to find, I think, with utilizing the strategy, you may be looking for a $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 sponsor. I mean, this is about making these big asks. That's this whole process is doing that. But you're going to find other things that are going to spill out through this too, because you're just engaging with enough people. And when you start getting those numbers and getting your committee and getting yourself involved and creating these kind of lists, which is it's just sales is all it is. You gotta, if you're willing to listen to 1,000 no's, you'll get what you want, kind of thing. But you'll be, a lot of times there'll be somebody and they may not come in at that level, but they may say, look, I can't, because you made an ask, and look, we can't be a $50,000 sponsor with you, but we want to help you somehow. We've got some, and that's whenever I'm like, I open my jacket, here you go. I've got a whole opportunity of sponsorships. So that's the other thing it does. It lets you opens up the doors to maybe lesser sponsorships than the majors that you're looking for. So just really those numbers are so important as Amy's going through it. So
we had a question come in. I don't know if you want to address this right now, Amy, or you tell me and Jason if this is something we should wait to answer right now. But we had a question come in from Justice at the Rainbow Village, and she's looking to add new committee members for an annual gala that they're planning. And she's asking, how important is it to establish expectations before those members join? Like, hey, you're going to sell 2 sponsors. Am I jumping the gun here on that?
No,
answer,
I love that question. It's one of my favorite questions.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Jason was saying about not having the right people on the committee.
Yeah.
I think what I've seen is people because building a committee is not easy, and we know that, building a committee of the right people. So we tend to feel like we avoid those tough conversations, and that's setting ourselves up for failure. I think in my experience, when you go to meet with somebody about being on a committee, you put those expectations out there right off the bat. You let them know that I have built an expectation, their role and responsibility as a committee member. And it says, raise $10,000 through sponsorship and table sales, secure a sponsorship through your company, open the door, to your network for us to get other sponsorships. I mean, it is everything so that
smart.
And obviously people are going to think that they can do that. And it's not always the case. They may have the means and you have to help them. So their first year, they may not hit that 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever. And that's where you work with them. That's kind of our jobs, to coach them along and get them more comfortable with the ask, helping them build their list so they know who to ask. But I 100% find that it is way less stressful and you are way more successful if you put those expectations right up front.
Smart.
And then along with that, putting the expectations up there and the accountability piece. In the meetings, having these conversations as a group, and sharing ideas so that everybody is meeting their goals. Nobody wants to be the person in the room that's not hitting their goals when you hand out an income tracker and they still have zero by their name. So really it's setting up the expectations and then the accountability piece. They just go hand in hand.
And I would tack onto that, just because you think, well, I really want to get a committee of 8 people. If you don't find the 8 right people, don't put somebody on the committee that's going to be there, because all they're going to do, that's not going to be able to be productive and meet those things. They're just going to be another opinion that's going to slow things down. And they're going to have all these great ideas and all this neat stuff and no execution. And it's kind of the 80-20 rule. You get 10 people on there, probably 2 people are going to raise the majority, 80% of your money.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean that everybody else can't come along and help. And you may go around the room and you're at your 3rd meeting and I've come around and we go to Trevor and Amy's, raised, she's at $12,000. She's $2,000 above goal. And I asked Trevor, how's things going? Well, I just haven't got there. So all you have to do, maybe not during the meeting, but just afterwards, just pick up the phone and say, hey, Trevor, what can I do to help push things along?
Right.
I know you've got lots of contacts and we lined them all up. So what do I need to do? Do you want me to go to a meeting with you? Sometimes sometimes it's just a little nudge, a push, or they're just not, it's a confidence thing, whatever, he's fine in his own deal. And he just forgets to have a conversation, and it just gets worse. People get caught up in the world.
You said something interesting about sales, Jason, which is, wild. I mean, it's obviously a very, very simple approach. Like you just said, hey, what's working for one person and not working for another, and how can I mirror and match what's working for Amy if I'm the one, if I'm the weakest link of the chain, that's simple, ego's out of the way. Maybe I can go to the meeting with you. This is what I've been saying. It's been working. Having that dialogue, obviously can create a ton of synergy, right, between the community members and raising more funds for the cause. It seems pretty easy.
Yeah. I worked with an organization one time and they had a guy on their committee, and I've worked with him multiple times, and they had a guy that was on their committee, had zillion contacts with deep pockets. He knew lots of people, could really do the deal, but he wouldn't make an ask. He wouldn't ask anybody anything. And I just had a kind of I call it an uncomfortable conversation. I just said, hey man, I just want to know what are you doing here? I just asked him, I said, look, you're doing all this, you're helping. I said, they need your help. They need you to pick up the phone, call somebody that you don't have to go solicit your clients and go do all this, but some of these folks, just pick up the phone and make a phone call for them. They're busting their rear ends to make this happen. And you're talking all this, you're telling them all the great stuff you've got. And it kind of, it was, I wasn't rude to him or anything. It was just a really good conversation. And, he picked up the phone and made some calls and wound up raising like $20,000. And he goes, well, I just didn't know it was going to be that easy. And it's just, it's just stuff like that.
I've also, Jason, had success with where those people that aren't right off the bat comfortable with making the ask, we've put together a letter that they sign and the sales piece, and we mail it out as like a warm ask, like I'm serving as part of this committee, blah, blah, blah. And then they do a follow-up call. So the letter and the sales piece was kind of like the foot in the door, like warm them up a little. So once they made that follow-up call, it wasn't, not that it's ever a cold call, but they were aware that the ask was coming, because the letter very specifically said, I'm going to follow up with you the next couple weeks to see how you can support me in this event. So sometimes just a little something quick and easy, and an emailable sales piece, and an email that you create for them, that you either send out on their behalf or you have them send it out with their signature, either or, and then the phone call after.
That'll segue really nicely into a question that we had from Patty Smith, another friend of HGA. And she had a question just about scripting, Amy. I mean, so obviously you advise it in the right situation. Do you use scripting all the time? She wanted to know, do you have any scripts available that we might be able to share or something like that?
I have a bunch.
Maybe?
Yeah, I'll send them to you after, and you can link them.
Yeah,
and they're typically, they're pretty standard. It's the first paragraph is saying, you know, that I have the pleasure of serving on XYZ company to help, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a short paragraph about the organization and what we do. And then a paragraph about the event. And then it says, I'm going to follow up in the next week or whatever.
Okay.
And we include the sales piece. So sometimes, honestly, what happens is people just fill out the sales piece and send it back. So the follow-up call actually becomes a thank you versus an ask.
Confirmation. Yeah. Perfect. That's smart. Okay, great.
So Amy, what I hear,
because Patty wanted to know if that would help. I mean, obviously we know it'll help, but she just wanted some scripting, things like that, some warm introduction.
I'll send that. Yeah.
For like C-level and business owner type donors. That's perfect. Okay.
Well, and it goes back to, like Jason has said a couple times, like we're asking them to open their phone. It's the same thing. We're asking them to open up their Rolodex. Share your Rolodex with me. I'll send out this letter on your behalf, and then you do the follow-up. So if that works better for me to take that first step, hey.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, there's one of the things I think that the point in my drive to do this is because I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are busting your tail. You're putting this stuff together and you feel like you're just slipping and sliding and spinning your wheels. And how do I get some traction? How do I, how do I go get that $50,000 sponsor? And this is how it happens. You have access somewhere connection. I promise you, everybody here has a connection to do that. But it just takes time to go through, find those connections, and then help them help you. Just really help them bring it to, get it in there. Because a lot of times they're going to do, it's like we said, you'll sit around the committee and somebody goes, I don't know, who can we ask? I don't know. But when you have them pull their phone out, they start spinning through, oh yeah, Fred Smith, Susan Johnson, all of a sudden these names start coming out, and that's when the connections start happening and everything starts rolling. And if you can be that facilitator for them, it really, really empowers your committee to do great things, especially whenever they're kind of stuck. Amy, I'm going to pop back on here to finish this, and then we'll get back to some more questions.
So this is just kind of a piece that I just put together real quick, like preparing your committee member. You've got them, they're on your committee, and now, kind of preparing them to go make the ask of their network. Number one, most important, and we say this all the time, make sure they have the mission information they need. Make sure, as a new committee member, they understand your mission. Because when they make the ask, it needs to be mission motivated. We say it over and over. It's not necessarily about the benefits. It is about the mission. So you need to provide your committee members with the tools and the resources to really understand your mission. It's also really important to understand your organization's reach and impact. And it doesn't have to be in great depth, but, for like me at MDA, the committee loves to talk about that we have a camp for kids with neuromuscular diseases and how many kids get to go to camp each year and what the cost is for camp. And then they can also talk about, we have 120, clinics all across the country. We have, we have X number, we spend X number of dollars in research each year trying to find, cures and treatments for these diseases. So really making sure that you have that reach and impact, because people do want to hear that. They want to hear what your organization's doing. And then of course, your partner benefits. When you're selling a sponsorship, there is typically some type of benefits that go along with it. And I think there's some partner benefits that should be always included. And they're the simple things like a great networking event. You're going to be in a room with the who's who of Charlotte or the who's who of Dallas. And those benefits are not always a physical thing. They're not always a sign with a logo. There are benefits that people are looking for that will make their business better. They get to be in this room with people that they want to do business with. And this is an opportunity for them to have those conversations. And then really, why is your organization different from other organizations? You've got to set yours out, because we all know there's thousands of us out there competing for money. So, what makes your organization different? And then it's really important, we talk about this, to know what you're asking for. If you want a $25,000 sponsorship and you're going to make that ask, and maybe you've helped your committee member put together a proposal, put it for 50. Ask for 50, hoping that they come in at 25. If they come in at 50, great. That's like bonus, but always ask for more. Typically people tend to go down lower. So always ask for more than you are expecting.
Hey,
and then okay.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish, because I've got a question, but it was back to that about the mission. I want to come back to you in just a second.
So this is just a real quick simple agenda, and I'm not gonna go through all this, but it goes back to what I said before is, your goals of the meeting is, when your committee member goes into a meeting, or if you're joining a committee member, or if it's you specifically that's going to make this big ask, go in and learn about the person that you're meeting with, learn about their company. Don't go in there with, this is what MDA does, and this is what we need, and we have this event and we want you. Go in and learn about them, learn about their company, learn about, their organization's mission, who they already help, what nonprofits are they all already involved with, because that helps you make the ask when you know more about the company. And then, like I said, we'll send that. I'll have Jason send that sample agenda out.
We'll get all this information out to you guys along with the other stuff. So I want to back up for just a second. And on the previous slide, we talked about, mission, drive, and impact. And a real simple way, and I'd like Amy to expound on this, any additional input. Tie your ask back to what the impact is. If you're, like she talked about camp, if you're trying to fund for campers, I don't want somebody to give me, I'm not asking you for $50,000, and let's say it's $1,000 a kid. Whatever the number is, I'm asking you to underwrite 50 kids to go to camp. Whatever you guys are doing, tie your ask back to an incremental impact that they can count that in their head, because that's what they want to, that's what they want to do, because they're not going to sit there, oh yeah, I gave them 50 grand. Oh yeah, we put 50 kids through camp. That's how they want to make an impact, is that really lets them know, this is what I did. This is what our company stood behind. This is what we helped and what we did. And then they get all that goodwill throughout. I mean, from a company standpoint, especially today, employees want to know, what are we doing in the community? Hey, our company just put 50 kids, through a camp for MDA. Yay. We all get to do that. I hit the cheer button. It's that kind of stuff that people want to know. So make sure that whenever you're doing your ask and you're making in your mission drive and tying it, make sure that, and it doesn't have to be, just so everybody knows, we're not saying it's got to be a designate, because you say, well, this is just for our general fund. Well, your organization still has some specific impact. Tie it to that. We served, 2,200 people last year. We're trying to serve an additional 100 people this year, make it 23. So this right here will help us to make that additional reach, whatever the number is. Tie it back to that piece.
Yeah, I think, some of the easiest things you can do is, just like you said, with sponsorships, is definitely tying it back to something within your organization. One of my favorite things to do is at our event, we just will have pre-printed, did you know $2,000 sends one kid to MDA summer camp. It costs $140 for a one session at the clinic. And it's a whole list of what we call fun facts. We put them on the bathroom doors. We put one at the bar. We just put them throughout the room. So as people are stationary, they're reading these and we're warming them up, prepping them for that mission drive, because we've already given them all that information and put that mission drive into them. And then when we go into the mission drive, we obviously are going back to that. Okay, we want to send X number of kids to summer camp or whatever it is. And then always after your event, you should always send an impact report. I think it's really, really important, because once people give the money and they know going into it, you're telling them this is what we're going to do, but they want to see at the end of the night, this is how much money we raised, and this is the impact of it. So always send out like a thank you newsletter with an impact report after your event.
Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left. We always want to finish right on time, and we're definitely stay to the end because we're going to do that drawing for the free trip. And so, Trevor, I know you've got some more questions. Yeah. So would you please?
We've got some more questions.
Bring those up and let's get them out there.
Yeah, and then last call for more questions. Let's keep the conversation going because the questions have been phenomenal as always. Michelle from Rainbow Village wants you to expand on what is the best practice for creating sponsorship levels and benefits? What is the best practice? I mean, obviously that's different per organization, but expand on that if you can,
sure.
Please.
I mean, so for me, I think it's important to work backwards in the sense that if you're starting from scratch, you wanna find out how much does your venue cost, how much is your food going to cost, what are your expenses, and how many people are you expecting, so you can get your cost per person. And that's kind of where you build from there. So for example, if it's going to cost you $300 per person to come to this event, we always either double or triple. So a ticket to the event would be either 600 or 900, whether you're doubling or tripling. If it's your first year, and you're going to double. But that gives you basically your per person, which then will become, so if it's $600 per person and you know that it's 10 chairs at a table, then it's $6,000 a table. That's just covering your costs. So that's where you want to build on it from there. And then obviously as you get into your higher levels, that's where you're kind of, you're going to get into like underwriting opportunities. And so then it really comes down to what does it cost to, somebody's the dinner underwriter. How much is the dinner going to cost? If it's $15,000 plus you're giving them, a table of 10, that's going to cost you another $6,000, and you need to be above that. You're looking at $25,000 for a dinner sponsor at least. So you want to build it. And then honestly, if it's an existing event, it's supply and demand. If you're selling out, it's your sponsorships. If you have exclusive sponsors and you're selling out, you bump prices. I'm a firm believer. We raise our prices every other year, no matter what.
And don't be afraid and don't be afraid to add something to the top. If your biggest gift that you've ever received is $10,000, then like she said, put a $15,000, a $25,000.
I'm interrupting here, but Patty had a question. In addition to Michelle's question about the best practices, are there best sponsor titles to utilize? Once again, that's very exclusive to each or mutual exclusive to each organization, of course. But are there some just ideas you can riff on as far as best sponsor titles utilized? Jason and I have had a conversation a couple times this week about a client that he has in Texas where they offer a sponsorship for everything and it works great and they sell out every year. Kind of give me some feedback on that, on Patty's question.
I mean, I think, we've always done it based on the type of event. I mean, MDA, we had pre-COVID, we were having 150 galas a year across the country. They had different themes. So, for example, one was our muscle team where we paired kids with neuromuscular diseases with local athletes. And it was all about, they were paired up and it was very sports themed, lots of sports memorabilia. So the sponsor levels were very much related to sports. Whereas if it's just a toast typical gala, it might be platinum, gold, silver. I think to me, you know, and people, this is just completely my opinion. It doesn't really matter what the name of it is. It really matters the dollar amount that goes and the mission behind it.
Yep. Awesome.
I want to just add something to that. Everything's negotiable. Everything is. And I'm going to tell you right now. So this is a caution for you. This is almost, it's really kind of a caution. Let's say that you go get somebody and you've got them, they're going to be your title sponsor. Okay. They're going to give you $50,000 and you're going to give them 2 tables. I mean, this is, you know, you're kind of doing this stuff, but then you come back and, you know, you've got to be detailed on that about putting that in and what that's going to be and make sure you have that deal, because then it comes back and like there was an event we had that we did, guy, you know, the title sponsor was 50,000 and it came back. We had a guy who was going to give $10,000 for cups, a $10,000. And they were like, well, I don't know, maybe we should offer it to the title spot. You know, was that part of it? I'm like, no, it's not. Why are you doing that? They've paid for what they've done. We've sealed that off. And then now, because if you go ask them, they're going to say, well, yeah, we ought to get that. Of course, but don't, you know, there's all kinds of things like that. Just when and they're going to ask and don't be afraid to say, well, we're going to use that to raise an additional $10,000. Mm-hmm. Don't just let, you know, cause sometimes, I mean, it happens that way. They'll start negotiating to get, you know, more face time, more coverage for themselves. And, you know, it's whatever you're doing. So just don't understand that it's negotiable. Somebody says, I don't really want a table. I don't care about the table. Give it away. Do whatever. I mean, I see that with organizations all the time. They'll have somebody, you know, be the top sponsor, and they'll just give they'll donate the table back, and then they can go back and resell it. And so those are things that you could do, and you know, well, don't get caught. I guess keep the mission drive, keep that part of it. And then you can work out those details after. Don't go in, you know, saying we're going to give you the farm, because you don't have to.
No, and you don't.
You're giving away dollars.
I think we've almost over the years, we've gotten, and I would say COVID taught me this, because when we switched to virtual, we didn't have a lot to offer people. I mean, you can't offer them tables. You can't offer them, you know, signs or napkins or whatever it is.
Right. And
people still gave the same amount of money or more. And we weren't giving them hardly anything. And it really opened up my eyes that they're not doing it. There's some, and they're going to push and they're going to see, but ultimately they're going to give you the money, whether you give them those extra cups or not. Yes. And I think another thing that I really like to do with sponsorships is have that meeting with your committee and kind of pinpoint. Your committee should know, like, this is who or maybe, you know, this is who we're going after as the title sponsor. This is who we're going after. And I like to sell those big sponsorships first, because one of their benefits is when I have that sales piece printed that we're going to share with all these companies, we're going to go ahead and put sold with their logo on it. That is so appealing, and it's free. And it's like an easy way for me to say, hey, getting ready to print the sales piece. Love to have you guys' logo on it, because it's going to go out to 10,000, you know, companies. Are you guys in again? It's a great way to re-secure your past sponsorships from the previous year and get those big ones sold before you even have your sales piece printed. And it's also a great way, because then when people get it, they were like, well, I want my logo in it. Well, great. Guess what? If you come on as a co-title sponsor, then I'll reprint, you know, these or have it remade to get another $50,000.
Yeah. Are you both saying, I mean, at the end of the day, just like you both, it sounded like you both said, be creative. And I don't want to say that there aren't any rules, but it kind of sounds like there aren't any rules when it comes to fundraising in this sector.
You know, at the end of the day, we're here to get a check.
I would say be creative, but keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Don't overthink it. You don't need to have 25 different sales pieces or different levels to sell. Right. You know, simple.
Make it easy to digest. We're talking about making it easy to digest, so people will. It'll be easy for them to give. But so I'm not, no plug here. This is not a plug. But Jason perfected an item that we have, and just so happens to be the most profitable item for all of our clients. And he's so pro underwriting and sponsor for a great reason, because he's proven it. But he's having clients get an underwriter for our golden ticket, which raises $8,000 for every one of our clients that uses it. And if it's underwritten, obviously that sponsor gets the shine. So our underwriter gets the shine, quote unquote. But now the nonprofit is gaining another $2,000. And so they're making 10 as opposed to 8, and it's just,
we've got a client that just bought 2 and she had them underwritten for $4,000 a piece.
Exactly. There's no rules
the cost is $2,000. She got it written for $4,000. But I want to come back to table sponsorships real quick. This is a strategy I've had some clients do, and it's worked really well. So, and this is just an example. So it's just an example. Say that they've got this level. They said they've got 10 $10,000 tables, $5,000 tables, $2,500 and $1,000. I'm just for example purposes. They don't put the $1,000 on there. They don't even open that up and say it's there. All they do is these upper levels. Yeah, if we need to, we'll do that, and we'll open that up at the end whenever they kind of out to the general public. But we want to keep that off of there. And if somebody says, well, hey, I thought we were doing $1,000 or something like that, say, well, we can, but we're really trying to raise some more money because we need to help some more kids this year. And it takes it back to the impact, and they go, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And when they did that, because they'd never had a 10,000, they had a 10,000. The first year they did it, they only wound up selling $5,000 tables at the very end. And so it's just, help yourself, by limiting the options, pushing it up there. And, like Amy said, they'll give you the money. I mean, they believe in your cause. They believe they want to be part of it. They want to be part of your mission. They'll come through for you.
Well, it sounds like there's a common theme throughout this about being creative, keeping it simple. And, what you were just talking about was simple supply and demand stuff. Like Amy mentioned earlier, it's simple supply and demand. And if you don't give them an option to buy that lower level, then obviously they don't know. Right. And the cause is benefiting as a result. So good. That's a great theme. That's a great theme.
I think that, especially right now, what we're, just based on the organizations that we talk to on a daily basis, there's a lot of optimism out there. People are feeling good. The vaccines are happening. We're going to get opened up, and they want to do that. And from the business side too, a lot of they're like, let's go. We want to, because a lot of companies, and this is the thing that, everybody gets a little misunderstanding about, they had a fantastic 2020. Mm-hmm. I mean, like record breaking 2020, made more money than they've ever made in their life. The companies are doing, significantly well. Construction companies, building companies, things like in residential
cleaning companies,
through the freaking roof. And so, those are people, they've got cash, and they're willing to put it back in and invest it back in organizations like yours. So don't be afraid to make it happen.
We just got in the last week 2 $50,000 sponsors for our virtual event on May 20th, where literally they're getting like a 30-second commercial or a little 30-second spot during the virtual event and their logo. And I don't even know what else, but it was 2 companies. You're exactly right. They had, because of the type of industry, they had an incredible year, and they didn't do much last year. They're ready to give, and they like our mission. And so 2 of them, 50,000 and not getting very, very much in return.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time with items for events and whatnot. Don't make up your mind for folks before, let the market tell you. And so in this case, never underestimate how much money there is in the system. That's for sure.
There's a lot right now.
2020 was one of the highest giving years.
Yes, it was.
In the United States, it was up, I think, 2.8%.
Yep.
2.8% in 2020 over 2019.
So people were still very giving. Yes.
Yep. Hey, we're running out of time. Jason, I need you to announce the winner.
Oh my gosh. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me get there. Golly, I'm running behind, but we're going to make it happen.
This is not an April Fool's joke. Someone really is winning.
Yeah, we're going to make this happen.
So, but hey, Amy, thanks a ton again for everything.
Yeah, don't go anywhere, anybody, because we're going to have this thing going just a second, so bear with me.
Yep. And easy to reach all of us, obviously, via email, jason@hcafundraising.com, amyers@mdausa.org. We'll also send out the webinar recording and any slide decks and all that stuff. I know Patty wants some scripting, and I think that's awesome. That was a really, really great point with that warm letter. And please join us next week. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones, tell your colleagues tell your neighbors to join us next Thursday at the same time, same place. And we appreciate it. Jason, who's the winner? Who's the winner?
Are y'all ready?
Yes.
Karen Bowen. Karen
Okay.
Bowen.
All right.
Hey,
It's
Karen. We're going to give
All right,
a
Karen.
trip that you can use in your next fundraising event. And we appreciate everybody being here. I'll be sending out an email to everybody just sometime this afternoon. I'll try to get it out with the recording for this so you can share it with friends and colleagues. And also, Amy's going to get some materials for us, and we'll send that as always. Thank you all so much for spending some time with us here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Amy. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Amy, you're the best.
Great
Thank
questions.
you.
All right. Talk to y'all
Bye.
soon.